My children abandoned me thinking I was useless. You're just a burden now. But when I built a successful business in my 60s, they came begging me for money the day my children called me useless. I was wearing the bracelet I'd pawned my wedding ring to buy for Ashley's graduation that morning, while preparing their favorite meals. One last time, I'd noticed my grandmother's leather-bound recipe book peeking out from the top shelf. Its worn spine held more than just recipes for Sunday roasts and holiday pies. It contained her closely guarded secrets for natural healing balms and soaps that had once made her the talk of her small town and helped support our community. The kitchen counters that morning had been cluttered with more than just ingredients for their favorite dishes. Hidden behind the flour and sugar sat small bottles of lavender essential oil and jars of dried herbs I'd been experimenting with even as I prepared for their visit. My hands smelled of rosemary and mint from my early morning. Attempts at recreating Grandma Rose's legendary copula soap. Mom Robert began, not touching the food I'd laid out, his eyes scanning my kitchen with barely concealed disdain. I caught him staring at my experimental soap molds, my collection of essential oils, the drying herbs hanging by the window. "What's all this mess? Just a hobby," I replied quietly. Though in my heart, these ingredients represented something more. They were my silent rebellion against the retirement they had planned for me. Ashley wrinkled her nose at the herbal scenes wafting through the air. "It smells like an old hippie shop in here," she complained, waving her hand in front of her face, the same hands I'd once coated in honey and oatmeal mass during our mother-daughter spot days. The irony wasn't lost on me when they pushed that retirement home brochure across my herbs table. They saw a cluttered kitchen. I saw the beginnings of something they couldn't yet imagine. My fingers still smooth from testing my first batch of hand cream traced the edges of the glossy paper. "You're just—" Emily hesitated, her eyes falling on the neat rows of samples so RS cooling on the windowsill. "A burden now." Robert finished, his voice cold and businesslike, as they delivered their verdict. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window, surrounded by bottles of oils, herbs, drying on strings, and the first products of what would become Eleanor's Essentials. They saw a burden. I saw a woman on the verge of reinvention that night after they left. I didn't cry. Instead, I pulled out Grandma Rose's recipe book. Its pages yellow with age, but rich with potential. Her elegant handwriting detailed formulas for soaps that had once earned her a loyal following among the city's elite. My kitchen, which had witnessed decades of family meals and celebrations, would now witness my transformation. I made a vow, then surrounded by the soothing scents of lavender and sage, my hands deep in a bowl of natural soap. Soap. Ingredients if they ever returned they would find. More than just their mother, they would find a woman who had turned their rejection into an empire. One handcrafted bar of soap at a time, my first batch of soap cured, as I placed Ashley's graduation bracelet in my jewelry box. By the time they realized their mistake, it would be too late. The seeds of my new life were already taking root, nourished by their betrayal and watered with determination that. First night alone in my kitchen, surrounded by herbs and essential oils, I realized something profound. Freedom has a scent. Mine smelled of lavender, sage, and possibility. My hands trembled as I opened Grandma Rose's recipe book, its pages crackling with age and secrets. The first recipe was her signature lavender honey soap, the one that had once drawn aristocrats to her small shop in the 1950s. I remembered her telling me, "Eleanor, dear, true luxury isn't about the price tag. It's about the love you pour into creating something extraordinary." My pension check would only stretch so far. I sold my dining room set, the one Robert had insisted I'd never need again, and transformed the space into my first production area. Each dollar went into essential oils, organic ingredients, and professional soap molds. My kitchen scale once used for baking. Birthday cakes now measured precise amounts of Leon oils. The first batch was a disaster, the second wasn't much better. By the third, I started to understand the subtle dance between oils and alkaline, the perfect moment to add honey, the exact temperature that would yield the creamiest texture. My hands, which my children had deemed useless, developed an intuition for the craft. Late one night, as I wrapped my latest batch in simple brown paper and twine, my neighbor Sarah stopped by. She'd always loved the scents wafting from my kitchen window. "Eleanor, this is incredible," she exclaimed, inhaling the fresh soaps. Aroma, you should sell these at the farmer's market. I'm on the committee, I can get you a spot that Saturday. I stood behind a modest table, my heart pounding as people passed by. My soaps looked humble next to the glossy products of established vendors. But then something magical happened. A local beauty blogger picked up my lavender honey bar, closed her eyes as she inhaled its scent, and bought every piece I had. This isn't just soap, she declared. This is artistry. Do you have a business card? I didn't, I had something better. A story I told her about Grandar Rose's recipes, about creating these soaps in my kitchen, about pouring decades of love and resilience in. Into each bar he posted about my soaps that evening. By Sunday, my phone was ringing with orders. I named my brand, Eleanor's Essentials, simple, authentic. Like me, no pretense, just quality. The farmer's market became my testing ground. I listened to customers' refined recipes and learned what luxury meant to different people. Some loved the sustainable packaging, others the hand-cut designs, but everyone felt the care infused in each product. 3 months after my children A.B. upon me, I received my first bulk order from a boutique spa in the city. The owner, an elegant woman named Victoria, recognized something in my work that reminded her of the artisanal soaps she'd encountered in France. There's heritage here, she noted, examining my signature honey lavender bar. You're not just selling soap, you're selling tradition, authenticity, luxury that can't be mass-produced. That night, as I filled her order, I thought about Robert's dismissive glance at my messy kitchen, Ashley's wrinkled nose at the herbal scents Emily. Silence their rejection had become. My rocket fuel, every bar of soap was a testament to what they'd overlooked. Not just my capability, but my passion. 6 months in, I hired my first employee. By month 8, I'd outgrown my kitchen. The dining room wasn't enough anymore. My little business was spreading through the house like a beautiful, fragrant invasion. Local magazines started calling. Boutiques across the state wanted exclusive. Lynn, my simple brown paper packaging, was now appearing in Instagram posts tagged #luxury skincare and #authentic beauty. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Each order felt like a victory. Each positive review of indication. My hands, once deemed worthless by my children, were creating something valuable, something desired, something that was entirely unquestionably mine. The article in Forbes hit newsstands on a Tuesday, 60-some and successful. How Eleanor Mills turned family recipes into a multi-million-dollar empire. By Wednesday morning, my phone was buzzing with a familiar area code blocked months ago. I was in my new office, overlooking the production facility, where dozens of employees now crafted my soaps. When Victoria, my executive assistant, entered with a peculiar expression, "Eleanor, your children are in the lobby," my hands didn't shake. As I set down the prototype of our new winter collection, instead, I felt an odd sense of calm, like the eye of a storm. How do they look? Robert's in a suit worth more than my monthly salary. Ashley's carrying a Iris bag, and Emily, well, she looks nervous. Of course they'd come. Success has a way of summoning those who once deemed you worthless. I took a moment to study my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. The woman staring back bore little resemblance to the burden they tried to discard. My silver hair was now stylishly cut, my posture confident, my designer outfit of a far cry from the apron I'd worn in my kitchen days. "Send them up," I said. "But first, activate protocol." Victoria nodded, understanding perfectly. Every security camera would be recording every word, documented. I'd prepared for this day since they'd walked out of my kitchen. The elevator dinged, and there they stood, my prodigal children. Robert entered first, his corporate swagger slightly diminished by the success surrounding him. Ashley followed, her practiced smile, faltering as she took in my transformed appearance. Emily lingered by the door, clutching her purse like a lifeline mom. Robert started, his voice honey sweet. "You look amazing, Eleanor," I corrected him. "I go by Eleanor now. In fact, most magazines call me Miss Mills." Ashley stepped forward, her eyes glistening with well-rehearsed tears. "We've missed you so much. When we saw the article, we realized how wrong we were." "Did you?" I gestured to the plush chairs facing my desk. "Please sit. Tell me what exactly you realized." They settled in, exchanging glances. Emily finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. The retirement home. It was a mistake. We were wrong to call me a burden? I finished watching them. Flinched to decide I was useless. My voice remained calm, measured wrong to abandon the mother who raised you single-handedly. Robert leaned forward, slipping seamlessly into his business mode. Mom Eleanor, we want to make amends. In fact, we've been thinking with your business acumen and my corporate experience, we could take Eleanor Essentials International, Ashley's social media influence. Could what? I interrupted. Opening my desk drawer. Help promote the products made by the mother you deemed worthless. I withdrew the retirement home brochure they'd left on my kitchen table that day. It was slightly faded now, but the memory it carried remained sharp as ever. Ashley's perfectly manicured hand reached across my desk. That's the past or families. Forgiveness, I said, rising from my chair. Must be earned and trust. I walked to the window, looking out at my empire. Trust requires proof. What do you want us to do? Robert asked, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. Whatever it takes, we'll do it. I turned back to face them, my expression unreadable. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. The seeds of my test were planted, and they'd walked right into the garden, because proving yourselves well, that's going to be quite the journey. Emily's face showed a flicker of understanding, perhaps realizing this wasn't the simple reunion they'd anticipated. They thought they were here to reclaim their mother. In reality, they just walked onto a stage I'd carefully designed. And the show was about to begin. The first test began the very next morning. I called Robert into my office, knowing his corporate ego couldn't resist a business challenge. I'm considering a significant investment in a new production facility, I said, sliding a folder across my desk. I'd value your expertise on this. His eyes lit up like Christmas morning. This was his chance to prove his worth, to demonstrate his business acumen. What he didn't know was that the investment proposal was entirely fabricated, a carefully constructed house of cards designed to test his character. Meanwhile, I assigned Ashley to our social media department. Your influence could be valuable, I offered. Watching her practically bounce with excitement, her first task, crafting a campaign about family values and authenticity. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emily, the youngest I placed in product development, you always had the most sensitive skin, I reminded her. Help us create a line for sensitive souls, her grateful smile almost made me waver, but I hadn't come this far by letting emotions cloud my judgment. Victoria, my trusted assistant, documented every move they made. Security cameras captured their private conversations in hallways. Every email was monitored, every phone call recorded. Robert took the bait first within 3 days. He was secretly meeting with my competitors, attempting to leverage his position as my son to broker deals behind my back. The hidden camera in the coffee shop caught him boasting my mother's getting old. Soon enough, I'll be running the whole show, as Ashley proved equally predictable. She began embedding hidden advertisements in her social media posts, monetizing her mother's heartwarming reconciliation story. Without company approval, her phone calls, all recorded, revealed her true intentions. Once I'm head of marketing, I'll have access to everything. But Emily surprised me. She threw herself into product development with genuine enthusiasm. Her suggestions were thoughtful. Her work ethic impressive for a moment. I almost believed she might be different. Then came the investor gala. I orchestrated a crisis, a fake scandal about contaminated ingredients. As my children huddled in a corner, thinking they were unobserved, their true colors emerged. This is perfect, Robert whispered, straightening his tie. Once the stock prices drop, we can help her sell Shake. Be grateful for our support. Ashley nodded eagerly. The sympathy story alone will triple my followers. Devoted daughter helps mother through business crisis. People will eat it up, and Emily, my supposedly reformed youngest, stayed silent once again, not speaking up against wrong. Is its own kind of betrayal. I watched them scheme from my office surveillance feeds, displaying their treachery in high definition. Victoria stood beside me, tablet in hand, documenting everything should I initiate protocol, as she asked, referring to our contingency plan. Not yet, I replied, watching my children plot their way to an inheritance they'd never receive. Let them think they're winning the game is far from over. Over the next few weeks, I laid more traps. False opportunities for embezzlement, manufactured chances to undermine my authority, each test designed to reveal their true intentions, and each one documented meticulously. Robert grew bolder with his corporate espionage. Ashley's social media posts became increasingly mercenary, and Emily Sweet continued her pattern of silent complicity. They thought they were playing me, but every move they made was choreographed on my chessboard. Every strategic position they believed they were gaining was another step toward their own exposure. As I watched them congratulate each other over lunch one day, celebrating their perceived victories, I felt no pain. Only a cold certainty that justice would be served. The pieces were in place soon. Very soon the game would enter its final phase. Victoria placed a fresh stack of evidence on my desk. Photographs, recordings, emails. They're getting careless, she observed. She, overconfident, perfect. I smiled, closing the file. That's exactly where I want them, 2 months into their redemption. My children had perfected their performances. I watched them through the lens of security cameras, each playing their carefully crafted roles with Oscar. Worthy dedication. Robert mastered the devoted son act during board meetings. My mother's vision is extraordinary. He'd declare his hand placed dramatically over his heart, yet moments later, in supposedly private calls, he'd whisper to competitors about her outdated leadership. The duality was almost artistic. Ashley transformed my office into her personal studio, staging elaborate social media moments. Reconnecting with Mom is life-changing. She'd caption photos of us reviewing marketing plans, her eyes glistening with manufactured tears. The same photos she'd later use to negotiate secret endorsement deals with our competitors. Emily proved the most intriguing performer. She'd bring me tea every afternoon, carefully selecting my favorite blend, just like old times. She'd smile, her voice soft with seemingly genuine remorse. Yet the hidden camera in the break room caught her rehearsing these moments with Robert, practicing the perfect blend of regret and innocence. They thought they were crafting the perfect illusion. Instead, they were starring in their own exposure. Mom. Robert announced one morning, bursting into my office with practiced enthusiasm. I've been analyzing our Asian market potential. If you'll trust me with the expansion? The way I trusted you with that confidential supplier list, I interrupted quietly, watching color drain from his face. The one you accidentally shared with Phoenix Organics last week. He recovered quickly, his corporate mask sliding back into place. There must be some mistake. I would never, of course not. I smiled, letting him believe his lie had landed my mistake. Ashley's performance reached new heights during our charity gala. She orchestrated a tearful speech about family redemption, her designer, dress carefully selected to convey humble sincerity. Eleanor's Essentials isn't just a company, she declared to the crowd. It's a testament to mother's love. Later that night, her Instagram Live accidentally remained running in her office. Just wait until the holiday collection launches. My followers will make me the face of the brand, and then we can start shifting the narrative away from her outdated image. Emily's mask was the most subtle. She played the repentant daughter with such conviction that sometimes in unguarded moments I almost believed her. She kept detailed notes on product development, stayed late to perfect formulas, and never openly plotted like her siblings. But guilt leaked through her performance. She'd flinch when Robert discussed their plans, avert her eyes during Ashley's staged moments of affection. Her silence spoke volumes about her true allegiance. The breaking point came during a late-night executive meeting. Thinking they were alone in the conference room, their masks finally slipped completely. She's getting soft, Robert declared, loosening his tie. All this talk about organic suppliers and ethical sourcing, we need to modernize. Once we take over, Ashley scrolled through her phone, smirking. My followers are already messaging about how they prefer seeing a younger face. Representing the brand, the transition will be seamless. Emily traced patterns on the table, her voice barely audible, but she seems happy. Having us back. Oh, grow up, Robert snapped. We're not back for family dinner. We're here for what's ours. She owed us this after trying to make us look bad. Little did they know their entire conversation was being recorded in pristine digital quality. Each word another nail in the coffin of their deception. Victoria stood beside me in the security room, her tablet documenting every syllable they're getting, bolder. She observed, I nodded a calm. Settling over me good. Let them think their masks are working, the grand unveiling is almost ready. Their performance was reaching its finale, but I would be the one controlling the final act. The annual shareholders meeting seemed the perfect stage for their undoing. The grand conference room at Eleanor Essentials headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Board members, investors, and press all gathered for what they thought would be a standard corporate presentation. I'd arranged everything meticulously. 3 leather portfolios sat before 3 empty chairs in the front row, each bearing my children's names in gold embossing. Robert adjusted his tie as he took his seat. Ashley checked her makeup one final time, and Emily clutched her tablet like a shield. Today, I began standing at the podium. We're discussing legacy. The projector hummed to life behind me, but not the legacy you're expecting, AC. Eng. Robert's confident smile faltered slightly. Ashley's perfectly manicured fingers stilled on her phone. Emily's shoulders tensed. 3 months ago, my children returned to my life claiming redemption. My voice carried through the silent room. I'd like to share what that redemption really looked like. The first video played Robert in the coffee shop with our competitors, his voice crystal clear. My mother's getting old soon enough, I'll be running the whole show. His face. Doctor of color, as his own words condemned him. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Next came Ashley's Instagram live stream mistake. Just wait until we push her out, the company needs a younger image anyway. She lunged for her phone, perhaps to start damage control, but it was too late. Her carefully crafted social media empire was crumbling in real time. Then the conference room footage, their late-night plotting, their cruel dismissal of my happiness, their naked greed exposed for all to see. Emily's silence in these moments spoke as loudly as her siblings. Active betrayal. The room watched as she repeatedly failed to stand up against their schemes. Her complicity clear in her passive acceptance. But perhaps most telling, I continued clicking too. The next slide are these email threads appeared, Robert's secret dealings with competitors. Ashley's unauthorized endorsement contracts. Financial projections they'd planned to use to force my retirement, each document meticulously dated, verified and damning. Mom. Robert stood, his corporate mask cracking. This is completely out of context, I interrupted softly. Like the context of calling your mother a burden, or the context of planning to steal her company. Ashley burst into tears. Real ones this time. Not the practice kind she used for her videos. You set us up, you trapped us. No, dear. My voice remained calm. I simply gave you enough rope to hang yourselves. Everything you did, every scheme you plotted was your own choice, the board members whispered among themselves. Journalists frantically took notes. This was no longer a standard shareholders meeting. It was the systematic dismantling of a month-long con. Emily, I turned to my youngest, who hadn't moved or spoken. Nothing to add, no defense to offer still. Choosing silence, she met my eyes for the first time, tears streaming down her face. The guilt there was real, but it came too late. Victoria stepped forward, distributing comprehensive folders to each board member. You'll find everything documented here. Every betrayal, every scheme, every planned coup. The room erupted in chaos. Robert's carefully crafted business relationships shattered as his duplicity came to light. Ashley's phone buzzed incessantly as news of her manipulation spread through social media. Emily sat frozen, watching her siblings' masks finally crack completely. This meeting is adjourned, I announced, gathering my papers, though I suspect the press will have questions. As I walked out, leaving my children to face the consequences of their actions, I heard Ashley's broken whisper. What have we done? The answer hung in the air, as clear as the evidence still projected on the screen behind them. They had orchestrated their own downfall, thinking they were writing my ending. The aftermath hit, like a tsunami, me by nightfall. Every business publication had picked up the story. Family coup exposed Eleanor Essentials. Founder unveils children's betrayal. Robert's fall came swiftest. his corporate connections built on the promise of future control over Eleanor's essentials. Crumbled overnight, 3 boards he sat on requested his immediate resignation. His business phone, once buzzing constantly with opportunities, fell silent, except for cancellation notices. I watched from my office as he cleared his desk, his designer suit no longer carrying the same swagger. The security guard's presence seemed unnecessary. His shoulders slumped in defeat as he carried his personal belongings in a cardboard box. Ashley's social media empire imploded spectacularly. Her followers, once eager to consume her carefully curated family, redemption story turned viciously against her brand deals. Vanished, comment sections filled with scorn. Her attempt to post an explanation video backfired as viewers dissected every forced tear, every practice gesture. Fake family and Hampton, Ashley Snake trended for days. The authenticity she'd faked for years became her undoing. No one trusts an influencer exposed as a fraud. Emily's punishment came differently. No dramatic firing or social media. Fallout, just the quiet ostracism of former colleagues who'd witnessed her silent complicity. The product development team she worked with now avoided eye contact in hallways. Her desk, items were packed and mailed to her address. No confrontation, just absence. Sometimes silence hurts more than noise. Their personal lives unraveled with equal speed. Robert's fiancée, daughter of a prominent business family, quietly returned her ring. Society invitations for Ashley dried up. No one wanted their event tagged with her. Now toxic brand, Emily's teaching position at the local college faced review after concerned parents complained about her ethics. Victoria brought me daily reports of their downfall, though I hadn't asked for them. Robert, startup investors have pulled out, she noted one morning. Ashley's been dropped by her talent agency. Emily, she hesitated. Emily's been sitting in her car outside the building each morning but never comes in. I didn't respond to their desperate attempts at contact. Robert's lengthy emails explaining his strategic business decisions went unread. Ashley's tearful voicemails, claiming she'd been influenced by bad advice, remained unheard. Emily's simple text, "I'm sorry," sat unanswered. The retirement home brochure they'd once pushed at me found a new purpose pinned to my office bulletin board. A reminder not of their betrayal, but of my strength. Their financial reality hit hard. Robert's lavish apartment went on the market. Ashley's designer wardrobe appeared on consignment sites. Emily downsized to a studio apartment, the comfortable lifestyle they'd taken for granted, built on the assumption of inheriting. My success vanished like morning mist. 1 month after the shareholders' meeting, I received an unexpected visit from my former neighbor Sarah, who'd given me my first market stall opportunity. I saw Robert at the grocery store. She mentioned settling into a chair in my office, using coupons, wearing last season's suit. He looked different, how like someone who's finally understanding the cost of his choices. I nodded, turning to watch the sunset through my office windows. The same sun that had once risen over my kitchen as I made my first batch of soap, now set on the empire that soap had built and on the children who tried to steal it. Including the greedy, the price of their betrayal wasn't just financial or soil social. It was the permanent loss of something they'd never valued until it was gone. A mother's love and trust. 3 months after my children's downfall, I stood in front of Eleanor's Essentials headquarters, addressing a different kind of crowd. No shareholders this time. Instead, a group of women, over 50, each bearing the quiet determination I recognized from my own kitchen days. Elor's second chapter, Foundation. I announced, isn't just about money, it's about belief in ourselves when others have written us off. The Foundation's first initiative launched with $5 million in seed funding. Its mission, providing business grants to women over 50 who'd been displaced, discouraged, or dismissed by their families or society. Teach. Grant came with mentorship, business training, and a message: it's never too late to rewrite your story. Victoria helped select the first round of recipients. Margaret, 63, crafting artisanal cheese in her basement after her children sold the family farm. Patricia, 58, developing eco-friendly cleaning products while battling her ex-husband's attempts to claim her patents. Helen, 67, turning her grandmother's preserved flour techniques into modern art after her family suggested retiring quietly. The grant ceremony took place in my old kitchen, now preserved exactly as it had been the day my children abandoned me. The herb drying rack still hung by the window, soap molds slin. The counters and my grandmother's recipe book held pride of place. This kitchen, I told the gathered women, was both an ending and a beginning here. I learned that sometimes losing everything means making room for something better. Each recipient shared their story. Margaret's hands, weathered from years of farming, trembled as she described her children's betrayal. Patricia's voice cracked when she mentioned her ex-husband's mockery. Helen's eyes glistened as she recalled her family's dismissal, but there was steel beneath their tears. We converted the company's East Wing into a business incubator, the space that Robert had once planned to turn into. Executive suites now housed workshop areas, testing laboratories, and collaboration spaces, where Ashley had planned her influencer studio. Women now learned marketing strategies and business planning. The foundation's impact spread rapidly. Local media covered our grant recipient successes. Other companies began reaching out, offering partnerships and support. A movement was building, one that recognized the untapped potential in women's society, had tried to sideline Emily's old product development lab, became our innovation center. The irony wasn't lost on me. The space where my youngest had silently watched her siblings plot now echoed with the confident voices of women, claiming their second chances one evening as I reviewed new grant applications. Victoria brought me a special file. "You should see this," she said quietly. Inside was an application from Linda, 65, Robert's former mother-in-law. After her daughter broke off the engagement, she'd lost her family's support for her small catering business. Her application letter was honest, vulnerable, and determined. I approved her. Grant Personally, the Foundation's quarterly newsletter, featured success stories that felt like mirror images of my own. Journey women turning craft hobbies into thriving businesses, mothers and grandmothers reclaiming their power after family betrayals. Each story, a testament to resilience, each success a beacon. For others, you've created more than a foundation, Victoria observed one day, watching the incubator space buzz with activity. You've created a family, one built on support instead of obligation. I touched my grandmother's recipe book. Its page is now digitized and shared with every grant recipient as a symbol of inherited wisdom and strength. Sometimes I replied, "The family you choose creates a better legacy than the family you're born into." My children had sought to inherit my wealth. Instead, I'd found a way to transform their betrayal into a gift for others, proving that the darkest endings can birth the brightest beginnings. The media storm hit with unprecedented force, a stark reminder of society's disposable view of aging parents. My story, initially confined to financial news, exploded across mainstream platforms. Robert's spectacular fall became a cautionary tale. In business schools, Harvard Business Review published a case study titled "Blood Isn't Business: The Eleanor Essentials Betrayal." His former colleagues dissected his downfall in industry panels, his name becoming synonymous with familial corporate treachery. A viral video surfaced of him arguing with a barista over a declined credit card. The internet's reaction was swift and merciless, from corporate air to a "for coffee." His carefully cultivated LinkedIn profile disappeared overnight. Ashley's influence. Empire crumbled spectacularly in real time. Her followers, once devoted to her carefully curated authenticity, turned into digital archaeologists, unearthing and exposing years of manipulations. Every past post was scrutinized, every old story re-examined through the lens of her exposed duplicity. Her infamous Family First podcast series, where she tearfully chronicled our reconciliation, became subject to ruthless parodies. Comedy shows created skits about influencers faking family relationships. She became the punchline she'd always feared, being Emily's quieter downfall proved equally devastating. Her teaching positions. Review ended in resignation. Her students' parents had Googled her name, finding endless articles about her complicity. The silence she'd chosen became her defining characteristic. Local mothers whispered about the daughter who watched her mother being betrayed and said nothing. Their social circles contracted with brutal efficiency. Invitations dried up. Former friends crossed streets to avoid encounters. Country club memberships were quietly lost in renewal. The elite society that had once embraced them now treated them like cautionary tales. Robert's ex-fiancée gave a scathing interview to a business magazine. He showed me who he really was by how he treated his mother. I believe him when he said she was difficult. Now, I realized the only difficult thing was his relationship with truth. Ashley's influencer colleagues scrambled to distance themselves. Her previous collaborators released public statements denouncing her actions and not toxic. Family trended whenever she attempted to post explanations. Her follower count plummeted from millions to mere thousands. Emily's silence finally broke during an unplanned encounter. At a grocery store, a former student's mother fronted, her filming the interaction. How do you teach ethics when you couldn't even stand up for your own mother? The video went viral, adding another layer to their public shame. Local newspapers ran features on elderly parents sharing similar stories of ungrateful children. My story had unleashed a flood of hidden family dramas, each revelation further cementing my children's status as symbols of file. Betrayal at Robert's LinkedIn post about learning from mistakes attracted thousands of scathing comments. Ashley's YouTube apology video earned more dislikes than views. Emily's letter to the college board begging for reinstatement was leaked. Her pleas for understanding met with collective indifference. Victoria brought me their latest press clippings one morning. They're being called the Thankless Three, now she noted, placing the articles on my desk. Every parent's nightmare children. I glanced at the headlines from Privilege to Paraz. The Eleanor's Essentials heirs fall from grace. Viral villains. How 3 siblings became social media's most hated family. The price of ingratitude. A mother's triumph over betrayal, their father called Victoria added quietly. He saw the news. Wants to reconnect after all these years. I placed the articles in a folder marked, Legacy not for the money or success, but as testament to a truth my children had forgotten. Reputation once shattered, the wounds that even time struggles to heal. Your ex-husband is waiting in the lobby, Victoria announced, placing my morning tea on my desk. He says he's ready to be a father again. I gazed at the city skyline through my office window, watching the sunrise. Paint the buildings in shades of amber, the same color as my first batch of honey lavender soap. Tell him I replied that parenthood isn't a role you can abandon and reclaim. At convenience, 1 year had passed since the shareholder meeting that changed everything. My children's betrayal. Once a raw wound had scarred over into something stronger. Their father's sudden reappearance felt like a footnote in a story that had already reached its conclusion. That evening, I walked through my original kitchen, now a museum of sorts. Within the Eleanor Essentials headquarters, the herb drying racks still hung by the window, though they no longer held ingredients for soap. Instead, they displayed photographs, not of my children, but of the women whose lives the foundation had transformed. Margaret's artisanal cheese shop had just opened its 3rd location. Patricia's eco-friendly cleaning products were heading to national distribution. Helen's preserved flour. Art was featured in galleries across the country, their success stories, lined the walls where family photos once hung. Creating a new kind of family album, I picked up my grandmother's recipe book. Its pages worn with wisdom and use. You were right, Grandma, I whispered. Our greatest strife often comes from our deepest wounds. On the thankless, the Robert had moved to a small town, taking a middle management position far from his corporate aspirations. Ashley worked at a local boutique, her social media empire reduced to private accounts with handful of followers. Emily had found work at a community college 2 states away, teaching night classes under her married name. Their latest attempts at contact sat unopened in Victoria's desk drawer. Birthday cards, Christmas greetings, requests for reconciliation, all bearing return addresses that spoke of downsized lives and diminished dreams. But I felt no satisfaction in their downfall, no joy in their struggles. Instead, I felt something more powerful: indifference. The retirement home sure they'd once thrust at me had been framed, hanging in my office as a reminder. Not of their cruelty, but of my resilience. Beneath it sat a stack of applications for the Foundation's next grant cycle, each one representing another woman, ready to rise from her own ashes. The board meeting's ready, Victoria reminded me gently. They're waiting to hear about the international expansion, walking into the boardroom. I passed the wall of press clippings chronicling our journey. The headlines had evolved from family betrayal, Rock's beauty empire, to Eleanor's essentials, redefining success and second chances. Our story had transformed from scandal to inspiration. As I took my place at the head of the table, I touched the space where Ashley's graduation bracelet once sat on my wrist. In its place was a simple silver bangle, a gift from the Foundation's first class of grant recipients, inscribed with words that had become our motto. It's never too late for truth. The truth had set me free in ways my children never anticipated. Free from the obligation of forced family ties. Free from the weight of their expectations. Free from the need for their approval or love in trying to break me, they had instead broken the chains that bound me to their toxicity. Leighton begin. I addressed the board, opening my folder to reveal plans for our global initiative. The future stretched before me, bright with possibilities that had nothing to do with DNA and everything to do with choice. I had chosen to transform. Betrayal into blessing, pain into purpose, endings into beginnings. In the end, the greatest truth was this. Sometimes family isn't about the blood in your veins, but the love and your choices, and I had chosen to create a legacy that would outlive any betrayal,